Okay, let's get into this. Picture this for a second, maybe a bit unsettling.
Hmm.
You're on a flight, speeding down the runway, and bam, a sudden jolt. Could be a bird strike or, maybe even something bigger on the ground. Wildlife isn't just background scenery. It's a serious, ongoing issue right there at the airport. So today we're doing a deep dive into a really interesting source on this, an abstract submitted by Sasanka de Silva for an international conference for aviation research. Our goal here is to unpack what this abstract tells us about the threats, how the industry tries to, manage them, and the environmental complexities that brings up.
Yeah, and what's great about this abstract is it goes beyond just the big collision events. It paints a fuller picture of the risks.
Exactly. It's not just about that sudden impact, though bird strikes, especially getting sucked into an engine, that's obviously critical.
Absolutely. That can lead to forced landings, or worse, depending on the bird size, the speed.
But then you've also got, larger animals, think deer, coyotes wandering onto runways.
Right, and hitting one of those during takeoff or landing, that can cause serious damage to landing gear, the aircraft structure itself. It's a huge deal.
And De Silva's abstract brings up other things, too, more subtle stuff, like wildlife chewing wires or nesting in really vital spots, even causing corrosion with their droppings.
That sounds minor, but it's not. It's a constant maintenance headache and a potential source of system failures down the line.
And that engine ingestion risk is always there during takeoff and landing. Birds, other small animals. It can cause performance loss or outright failure.
Yeah, it requires immediate action. Plus, sometimes just large flocks near the airport can be a problem, reducing visibility for pilots.
Right, so all these things add up. Serious accidents might be rare, thankfully, but the abstract makes it clear this causes safety concerns, delays, cancellations.
And real financial costs, definitely.
Yeah.
Diversions, too.
And you can see why airports are kind of vulnerable, can't you? They often have waste facilities nearby, maybe water sources. Sometimes they're built right next to natural habitats.
Basically, they can inadvertently create attractive spots for wildlife, which leads us to mitigation efforts.
Yes, and because the threats are so varied, the abstract shows the mitigation has to be pretty comprehensive.
It details things like dedicated wildlife management programs, actually modifying habitats near runways, managing vegetation.
And having wildlife control teams on standby, ready to go.
Even airport design itself tries to factor this in now, minimizing features that might attract animals during planning or expansion.
Then there are the active deterrents. The abstract mentions loud noises, flashing lights.
Scare tactics, yeah. Using trained birds of prey, like falcons, is another one.
And, the source even mentions monkeys being used sometimes. That was surprising.
Yeah, it's mentioned as a possibility in some regions. They also use technology like radar systems to try and detect wildlife.
And, of course, training. Making sure pilots and air traffic controllers report sightings quickly. It's all part of the puzzle.
But even with all that, the abstract emphasizes it's an ongoing challenge. Requires constant vigilance.
Definitely. And this is where, for me, the deep dive gets really complex. Because all these safety measures, they have environmental ripple effects.
That's the crucial balancing act the abstract gets into. How do you protect the planes without causing undue harm to the environment?
So what kind of impacts are we actually talking about here?
Well, the source points to several things. Modifying habitats, like clearing trees or changing ponds near airports. That can obviously disrupt local ecosystems, affect biodiversity.
Makes sense. And the scare tactics, the loud bangs, the bright lights.
It can disturb wildlife behavior, yeah. Not just the target species, but potentially others, too. Might change how they move, where they feed.
And using those trained predator birds.
Could potentially interfere with the local natural bird populations and their own predator-prey relationships. There's also mention of chemical repellents, which always carry risks for non-target species.
Plus the noise pollution from deterrents, maybe even airfield lighting affecting nocturnal animals.
And fencing. Fencing keeps animals off runways, which is good for safety, but it can also block their natural movement patterns, cut them off from food or water.
It's complicated. So how does the abstract suggest navigating this tension?
It really stresses a balanced approach. starting with ecological studies before implementing measures to understand the potential impacts.
Okay, so research first.
Right. And designing strategies that consciously weigh safety against environmental protection, maybe prioritizing non-lethal methods whenever possible.
And then keeping track, monitoring effectiveness and the environmental side effects.
Exactly. Continuous research and monitoring. And crucially, collaboration, working with ecologists and environmental experts.
Because trying to fix a damaged ecosystem or make huge changes to airport infrastructure later, that's much harder.
Way harder and more expensive. The abstract really drives home that getting the balance right from the start, or as early as possible, is key.
So this look into Sasanka de Silva's abstract really highlights this core tension, doesn't it? The absolute need for aviation safety rubbing up against the need to protect the local environment. These mitigation efforts are right at that intersection. Which makes you think, considering this delicate balance just around airports, what broader environmental ripple effects might the way we design and operate huge infrastructure projects like these have that maybe we aren't fully seeing yet?